Well, I must thank ET Brand Equity for inviting me, and of course, Anushri in particular, the editor, because the minute she called, I said, oh, great brand, I must be a part of it. I must apologize individually for not having enough time today to have a very healthy discussion, but just great being here. I think there's a nice collection of some of the finer communication minds in our country, and I wish I would have spent more time. But it's a wonderful gathering, and I congratulate the company for getting it going. Well, I think it's a very important industry. I mean, people might consider it sort of a tertiary, secondary industry, but no, because communication is how you express what's going on. It's one thing to say have a big industry or some kind of a big corporation, but for the news of that corporation, what is it doing, how is it doing it, what are the ins and outs, we need communication. And I don't think there's been enough attention paid to corporate communication in the past. I know it's a definitive department in every company, but is it being given enough importance? Well, it needs to be given much more importance, and especially PR, which is a very tough job, because ultimately, of course, all the stuff that you produce in the communications department needs to also be disseminated. And that is so difficult because, I mean, you don't own the media, you don't own all the fora, is it? And to disseminate information that you very cleverly crafted, or honestly, I hope crafted, is a very tough job. So I feel for the industry in general, because there's a lot of churn. People can get very disappointed, even depressed, because there's so much pressure on getting a vast amount of communication out there in the market. And it's not easy, because you don't control or own all the areas where communication comes to you from, like newspapers and radio and what else. But I do think that companies are finally realizing the importance of giving out accurate information. So my only hope is that there's a great deal of honesty in what the corporate communication department, the PR department works out for every entity, not just a company, but every entity. I mean, in my life, the sports persons need to also push out honest communication. Sometimes it's very boring, which can be honest, but how is it possible to find the right mix where it's readable or enjoyable and yet honest? So I think there are certain challenges that we also need to accept as we grow as an industry. I say we because I'm also in the business of communication. And I think ultimately honesty, when you speak from the heart, is possibly the best option. But there's a lot of training as well. You need to be educated constantly and trained into, one, of course, you need to also constantly improve your language. Because if your language is inadequate, then inaccuracies creep in, and that doesn't send out the right communication. So language is a big key, and all of us need to work harder in expressing ourselves in whatever language you choose to. I mean, it doesn't have to be English or Hindi or anything, whatever language. And also honesty. So if we work hard on the language, if we are honest, if we speak from the heart, if we give out correct information, I think people will be able to accept and enjoy it a lot more. But there are ways this can actually happen by design, not just by accident, and I hope that's where the industry will go.